Teams want it to be all salary because they don't have to make a decision if the guy stinks. They can just keep him around. So these are little things they fight about. But listen, it's July 6th. I mean, they'll get it done. They'll get it done.
Okay. All right.
They
Mac and Mac guys. John McMullen, Jody McDonald with you on Birds 365. We've got a very good guest to help get the show rolling in the right direction today. You know him as a former NFL executive, columnist for Sports Illustrated, and you should be listening to his podcast, Business of Sports. It's one of the better ones out there. Andrew Brandt joins us here on Birds 365. Andrew, how was your 4th of July weekend?
Nice, Jody and John. Good to be with you guys again. It's it's supposedly the slowest time in the NFL, but it seems to be always something keeping me busy here. Last week it was college sports that kept me a lot busy.
Yeah. We got a lot to talk about, Andrew. Good to see you. I hope you had a good holiday weekend. I do want to start with Trevor Lawrence because Jody's a little bit concerned. So you're one of the best money guys in the business. Landon Dickerson still has not signed. So I want you to explain to Jody about what people argue about. It's generally offset language. It's generally payment structure.
Yeah.
When you talk about really the 2011 CBA and now the new CBA, he's not going to hold out come July 27th. Take Jody off the ledge. Is that even possible?
No, it's not. I mean, listen, back in the day when I negotiated rookie contracts for the Packers and the Eagles a couple seasons, you actually had to work. Yeah. And now, as you said, John, the CBA's pre-negotiated these deals. Now, when I say that, they pre-negotiated the actual money. So if you're whatever pick in the second round, you're going to get, pick a number, $6 million over 4 years. But there are little negotiable things like the payout of the bonus. That's not set. And I heard Trevor Lawrence is getting all his money in calendar year 2021, which is a great thing for a player because usually with those huge bonuses, they want to defer over a year or two. So the bonus payout and then language. Language is always a problem because some teams, if you have one little slip up, your guarantees to go away for the whole contract. These are the kind of things they argue about. And there are a couple pockets of the draft where maybe the number is not as clear. Maybe the Eagles guys in that little pocket. But the answer is no. They'll all be signed.
No, I gotta follow up. Define pockets for me. Inside the pocket, within the pocket. What pocket are we talking about here? And yeah, I get it. There's only so much wiggle room here because in the latest CBA, they locked down the numbers. But if that were the case, they'd all be signed 2 days after the draft. Here's your slot. Put your name on the bottom of this piece of paper and be over and done with. Yet the Eagles still have one very big draft pick, their second rounder, that isn't done while everyone else is. Give us at least make me understand pockets a little bit more.
Yeah, listen, I haven't done any of these contracts. It's been long past my time, but I think there's a couple pockets where the number is not as clear. In other words, if it's $7 million for 4 years, then and a $4 million or $3 million signing bonus, maybe there are positions above that get 298 and one below it that gets 246, and you don't know where to come in. So when I say the money's set, sometimes you see where the bonus is not as clear as it would be other parts of the draft. The other part is, agents are wanting to get, if there's salary that's above the minimum. So if you go into 2022 and the minimum is say 700 and the salary for that slot should be 900, agents want the 700 and then the 200 to be a roster bonus 1st of March. Teams want it to be all salary because they don't have to make a decision if the guy stinks. They can just keep him around. So these are little things they fight about. But listen, it's July 6th. They'll get it done. They'll get it done.
Okay. All right.
They will get it done. And it is July 6th. So we know before the holiday weekend, obviously, that is the classic Andrew news dump when it comes to the NFL. And there's where it came down about the Washington football team. and about the penalties that they're going to. From a guy who worked with the league, I've argued for years, Andrew, the NFL should not be in the investigation business. This is the perfect example to me. This is a very serious issue with the Washington football team, and they don't have a written report from an investigator. What is your perspective from working with, these are difficult issues, we all know that, but just your general framework from dealing with the league? Why do you think they've gone down this road? And it's not just this, any investigation that they're doing. Deshaun Watson, we could throw that in the mix. Why did they open this Pandora's box?
Well, listen, one thing I know from my time in the league, and every person in the league can talk about this, is we all, every 32 team employee, wants to feel like we're being treated equally or maybe even better than equally by the league office. And everybody's looking at them and how they treat others. And it's very political. It's going to come back to you. And, you know, I think in the 5-6 years ago, Roger Goodell went after his two main confidants, Robert Kraft and Jerry Jones, with the Elliott suspension. So I just think that he has a tough job because sometimes people think he just works for himself. No, he works for these 32, and they're trying to get him to sick him on other teams while trying to maintain the relationship with the team he's working on. To me, I'm a lawyer. Everything's precedent. And what is this precedent with the Washington football team? Because what we're seeing is there's no questions now, right? So Roger Goodell has admitted inappropriate behavior by senior executives and a workplace of harassment and misconduct. And so now the precedent is $10 million fine, and then this question whether Snyder's involved with the team or not, which is still unclear. Mm-hmm. So to me, is that really the same precedent what happened in Carolina, where there was misconduct by the owner, but he was kind of pushed out? And I just to me, it's all about consistency. And I think you raise a good point. The NFL has gotten into this business because they've made first-class conduct such an issue for the players. And when they made it such an issue for the players, they naturally have to turn it back to the owners. And that's where we are.
It'll be very interesting to see how it shakes out with Washington this year. All right, I'm going to ask you to put your lawyer hat aside and put your former executive hat back on and move along the NFL calendar with us. I'm sure our Eagles fans today are wondering, well, what the hell is Howie Roseman doing today? I got to go back to work after the 4th of July. Howie better go back to work as well. We've got 3 weeks until the start of camp. They had all their team activities, some mandatory, some not. They got to look at their rookies. Veterans came in, some veterans stayed away. And now we got this 3 weeks before they're going to show up with camp and get to work with the roster that they have. What is your daily activity? Reviewing how your guys have looked again, doing what's out there as far as free agents, if there is still an addition that you get in under your cap? Are you starting to scout other teams' rosters for, well, we know they've got too many players at this position, so they're going to have to let someone go. They're going to have to make someone available. What is the thing that you're most focusing on during this quote-unquote downtime in the NFL calendar?
Yeah, all the above. You want to get the draft pick you talked about, get him signed.
Yeah, get him signed. I don't even want to go there. Yeah, then we'll put that to the side.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you're looking at some extensions, maybe, the best time to do these deals is either right before the season or right after the season. And, when the business of football goes away, once you get the team involved and the coaches and all that. I just think that, they're mapping out scenarios about the roster in so many different ways. That's what we always did this time of year. What if this guy plays? Who's we going to push out? It's always about the 53 and how's it going to look? And you're right. You're scouting other teams and you're seeing, hey, is their fourth safety better than our fourth safety if they cut that guy? Is their sixth receiver better than ours? And these are the kind of things that advanced scouting will turn out. And now with, the pandemic lessening, you're going to have a lot of advanced scouting during the preseason to really shape the roster once you get to the cuts. And then there's the worry. This was the time of year I always worry because I get in trouble, and I was the guy, and Howie's probably the guy, to get the unrecognizable number call during July. And you're like, oh my God, what happened? And that was always the worst because I understand it. I have a son in his 20s. This is their last couple of weeks before, as I say, they go into the submarine for 6 months. So they go into the submarine for 6 months, especially at the beginning with the grind of training camp. They're going to party. So this is the time you kind of worry. I've always worried about these unrecognizable phone numbers coming in July.
Yeah. And in some ways, the unintended consequence, we talk about all the bad of the pandemic, Andrew, and it was 99% bad. Maybe that was the 1% good. Guys locked down, they weren't getting in trouble. And you're right. It's something you have to be concerned about. And, people say you should be a professional. We were all young. I don't know why. These are young men with a lot of money, and you can get into some difficult situations. So no question. I hear you there. But
yeah, one year I took a trip this time of year. I did with my family to Vegas, and oh my God, I saw 5 of our players, and they looked at me and they just ran the other way. Oh my God, their faces turned sheet white.
Well, speaking of, we have you, so you're going to get the question. I want to talk about one of your former players, and that's Aaron Rodgers. We've talked a lot. We've talked about you, with you, and with a lot of people. Everybody has their theory. It's getting late. It's the old saying. It's getting late early. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is probably going to have to be in Green Bay, or he's not going to play this season. I do want to talk about it from a social media perspective, because you saw it kind of blowing up, Aaron, talking about mental health. I think you stopped in 2008 maybe, and then you were here for a couple more years, right when social media was really ticking upward. You ever think about how difficult your job would have been in the age of social media, or how much more difficult it is now?
Yeah, I do. And well, first of all, for the players, obviously, it's a completely different being. I think the advent of social media was really LeBron's decision in 2010. And he's been the most scrutinized athlete in the history of the world because of social media. And it just goes down the line from there. It does relate to a lot of, young people, and we all know young people that really can't handle the criticism. And imagine that magnified as a professional athlete. I think on Aaron, I've been pretty consistent from the day it broke, the day of the draft. He's not going anywhere because he can't trade himself. And that's the thing. People talk about player empowerment. He's not James Harden. It's not the NBA. Remember when Deshaun Watson was going to get traded. Remember when Russell Wilson was going to get traded. Aaron Rodgers is not getting traded because the team doesn't want to trade him. Julio Jones got traded because the team wanted to trade him. So I think the thing is that life comes down to options. So Aaron's going to have 2 options: play with the Packers or not play. And it's frustrating for him because I say this all the time. He is the best player in the league, and he's a bench warmer. And when I say he's a bench warmer, he's keeping the seat warm for Jordan Love while being the best player in the league. And that, for him, that kind of stinks. I get it. But that's the difference between management and players. Management can make you do that. And they probably haven't told him we're going to trade you in 2022, but I would think that's the plan, because you don't draft a number 1 pick to sit. They didn't draft Aaron to sit. So it's time. And this is what we're going to have. We're going to have a player who's a lame duck and maybe MVP again, but reluctantly.
All right, I'm going to draw a parallel here because I think there are parallels between 2 players, but there are also significant differences. Aaron Rodgers and Zach Ertz. Mm-hmm. Both are questionable whether they're going to show up for camp, Both are still on their team's rosters and have to show up if they want to get paid this year, if they don't want to retire, and neither one of them looks like they want to retire. But as you correctly pointed out, the Packers don't want to trade Aaron Rodgers. The Eagles probably do want to trade Zach Ertz, although every once in a while you get a quote, hey, if Zach comes back, we're good. We think Zach's going to have a bounce back year. No, they want to move on from Zach Ertz, but they want a specific return for Zach Ertz. And as of now, Howie Roseman hasn't been able to make that happen. Leverage is the two things that the players have in common. Both sides think they have leverage. The Eagles think they have leverage because what is Zach Ertz going to do? Not show up? He might. Aaron Rodgers might show up. He might not. Who knows? But it's a different scenario because the Eagles actually want to trade Zach Ertz. It seems like they're waiting for someone to get hurt and someone else's necessary need gets increased, and that will increase their return. You ever get lucky that way? Holding on to a guy just waiting for someone else to go down, and then I'll get what I want in return. It seems like a pretty risky way to do business.
Well, in terms of that happening, the Eagles, it happened to them in the most fortuitous way in the history of the sport, in my opinion. Sam Bradford for a one. I mean, that was one of the great trades in the history of the sport because a team got its starter hurt and they leveraged it. And Howie is a great negotiator when he has leverage. So here he has no leverage. If Zach Ertz if they had a good deal for Zach Ertz, he would have been gone a long time ago. I think what happens is he doesn't ever hit the practice field. Now, does that mean he's traded before camp starts? Not necessarily. They may excuse him until they get the deal they want. And again, if it's waiting for an injury, that may take a while. If it's just taking whatever you can get, getting into training camp 2 days and letting teams see what they got, I don't know. I just don't see him taking the field as an Eagle, but that may not happen by training camp.
Let me hop in there. You say they may excuse him. I thought we were told this season, new CBA agreement, that you can't waive fines for guys not showing up. That if you don't show up, the team can't wink and a nod and say, we're going to fine you every single day. As soon as we get this worked out, we're not going to fine you. You'll get all that money back. Yeah. They can't do that anymore. So where does excusing him from showing up come in?
Yeah, maybe it's not excusing him from showing up. It's excusing him from getting on the field. Now, he may not be down with the plan of just standing, but again, this is all about, and I think this has been the problem with Aaron and the Packers. This is all about open and honest communication. I don't know how it's been with Howie and the agents for Ertz, how it's been with the coaches and Ertz. Are we all on the same page? If we are, fine. And he'll stand around if he has to and sit in the training room while they practice, whatever. But we just have to see where this goes.
You talked about leverage, Andrew, and you bring up the Sam Bradford trade. Teddy Bridgewater goes down, I think, 11 days before the start of the regular season. So that was tremendous leverage for a team that thought it was a contender and needed a quarterback on top of it. When we talk about Zach, coming off his worst season, obviously, he's past 30 now. We know how this league feels about players post 30. And it's that time of the season where everybody's budgeted, everybody's made their plans for the most part, obviously little wiggle room. So at what point does an executive say, I don't have the leverage, I have to cut bait? Or is that, can you be hurt by the philosophy of just trying to win every trade, trying to win every contract at all costs?
Yeah, I think that can happen. I mean, I just think, there may have been an offer for Ertz before. I would think there had to been before the draft, during the draft. And now they're going to have to deal with, are they going to get the same thing? Obviously, they're not going to get the value of the draft because if they got a draft pick, they could have used it. Now they got to wait a year. So if they get a third, that's like, getting a fourth because they can't use it for a year. So, yeah, that could happen.
Andrew, I know you've been making appearances all over the place about the new economic world that college athletes is entering with the Supreme Court decision on name, image, and likeness. Collegiate athletes, players are going to be able to make money for themselves off what they've already accomplished, which I think is a great thing for the individual players. But I'll be truthful with you, Andrew. I read every single article that I can, and I still don't understand it all. And we're all speculating on what kind of actual hands-on effect it's going to have when it is implemented. You understand this stuff better than anybody that I know as far as the business of sports go. What is there anything that people are missing? That's something that you had thought of, they got to keep their eye on this, because if this happens, that happens. And before you know it, slippery slope, here we go. What is the one thing that you think people are underemphasizing about collegiate athletes now being able to make money?
Well, two things. Number one, let's not get over our skis about this, because it's not pay for play. There's no income coming from the school. And as a representative of Villanova, I'm very clear on that. And I talk to our coaches and everyone about that. You cannot pay the players, but they can be paid by third parties. And the third parties are endorsers or social media companies or whatever it may be. And this is a watershed moment for college sports, because never in the 115-year history of the NCAA have they loosened restrictions on this. Never. So are we on a path to pay for play? Perhaps. But that's a long way off, but we've kicked the door down. Two things happened in the last 2 weeks. One, we had a Supreme Court case that, again, did not allow pay for play, but said, NCAA, you can't touch education-related benefits. What are education-related benefits? Who knows? But maybe one school decides, they need $5,000 computers, not $1,000 computers. Maybe another school says, we need $20,000 internships, not $2,000 internships. And this is going to be a slippery slope because there are no rules. The second thing that happened is NIL, after 2 years of bandying it about, the NCAA kind of just threw up their hands because the state laws were going into effect. And they said, oh, just do what you want. And the schools like Villanova, you govern it. You govern it. So it's the Wild West. And I think in the first week we've seen one thing I didn't expect. And I don't know if anyone expected. Deals for players that are not football or basketball stars. We've seen a couple women's basketball players, a women's gymnast. We've seen things for all the players on the team, not just the stars. And these are going to be little, maybe they're a couple $1,000, but that's going to happen. And this is a new world where college athletes are going to get paid for their brand, which has never happened before. So it's a big deal.
Andrew, how quickly did you guys get into it at Villanova, start talking about these issues, the slippery slope? Because there is an unintended consequence there of, you mentioned it's not paid to play, but there are certain schools with the power to steer kids in you can have this, you can do that, similar to boosters back in the day that technically would not be allowed. But how do you police it?
Yeah, I've been making videos because all the athletes have not come back yet, just about what to look for, what not to look for, how to pick an agent. Agents are going to be part of this. And that's what coaches have to get used to around the country. They've always had taboo for agents because agents just want to take your guys to the pros. But now they need agents for NIL, and they should have agents. The question is, are they going to be good? These guys are coming out of the woodwork. Everyone's asking me to help them. But no, I'm not going to do that, because I think we have to protect our kids from being, approached by people just trying to use them as guinea pigs to get in the business. Listen, I met with Coach Wright a few times. It's out there. It's out there. And when I say it's out there, it's out there. So when Jay is recruiting, it's out there. Okay? These other schools are offering things, not from their school. But hey, this dealership down the road, this radio station, this business, it's happening. So what I'm trying to do for Jay is really make his kids aware, and we're going to have to play in this game. And college football is obviously the biggest, but college basketball, it's what's going to happen is every coach in America is going to recruit the class of 2023 based on NIL received by his players earlier. And the more you can say our quarterback got X, which is higher than their quarterback, you're going to win. You're going to win that recruit. That's what's going to happen.
I saw a great point made this weekend when I was reading and researching and staying on top of it. It might well have been Andrew Brandt. I apologize for not giving you credit. If you deserve it, please take it. Someone pointed out that you could have battles between student athletes, superstar players, and the actual school when it comes to going to independent places that will use the likeness of the player to advertise. Let's say down in Alabama, they have the official car dealership of the Crimson Tide. And let's say they spend about $500,000 in advertising every single year with the university to be able to say, they're the official car dealership of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Well, they want Bryce Young to be part of that. And they go directly to Bryce Young, the new quarterback of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and they go, well, we'll give you $250,000 to shoot our commercials, but then we're only going to spend half of what we spent with Alabama because, we've already got the superstar player. So now you've got players working against the university. That could get pretty ugly pretty fast. How are they going to avoid something like that?
Yeah, I did write about that. Thanks for the note. And I tweeted about it. This is the new world, and everybody tweets back. Yeah, who's going to cry for these athletic departments that are paying coaches $10 million? But advertisers have limited budgets. Sure. This is not Anheuser-Busch with the NFL, and you're right. I'm right. They're going to cut out the middlemen. And then we're not talking the big deals like Alabama, but local company pays $50,000 for signage at the basketball game. I don't need that. I'll just sign the players, or I'll pay $10,000 for a tiny sign, and I'll pay the other $40,000 for the top 3 players or whatever. So they'll cut out the middleman. That's scary because I'm very conservative here. College athletics is not big time football and basketball. Villanova, we have 600 student athletes. 600. Most schools have 20-something sports. One maybe makes money. So this is what college athletics is. And I think I'll end it here because people ask me about the NCAA. Is it going to die? Is it old, outdated? I'm like, the NCAA is definitely needed for 97% of student athletes.
Yeah.
But for college football and college basketball programs that make huge money, no, they'll be governed by something else in 5 years. They will. They'll be governed by something else. But we'll have the NCAA for soccer and lacrosse and swimming and diving and wrestling and tennis and softball. Yes.
So Andrew, last one from me, and you said don't get ahead of your skis, but you kind of did there, so I'm going to get ahead of my skis. The Alabamas, the Clemsons of the world, the Oklahomas, Notre Dames, is this going to make them more powerful, and is it going to make lesser programs just give up on the sport of college football, college basketball, those high-profile sports, not the 97% you were talking about where the NCAA is needed?
I guess the answer is yes, but it's already been happening. I don't think it'll stop the haves and have-nots. On the one hand, it's going to make the programs advance to another level even more. But on the other hand, it's going to allow for student athletes at all levels to get some kind of money. So, for instance, if some quarterback was going to go to one of those big power schools and he realizes, well, I can go to this medium school, but I'm the star and I can get NIL for $50,000 a year rather than competing at Alabama, and may I end up third string. These are the kind of things that we'll have to see.
Last thing I want to ask you about, I'm going to kind of flip-flop back to the National Football League. Was Hard Knocks in place when you were an executive in the league? Was that just burgeoning? Did HBO/the NFL ever come to you and say, we're considering you for Hard Knocks once you knew what it was and saw how it played out with previous teams? What was your take on Hard Knocks? We're getting the Dallas Cowboys again. I can't believe it's been 10 years. It seems to me like they're on every other year, but I guess it's been 10 years since they were on. Cowboys are doing it again this year. Pluses, minuses. You got an opinion on an NFL team being the participant on Hard Knocks?
Jody, every year, they'd ask. Every year. And I'd walk into our meeting. I'd say, what do we think about hard? Before I could get the word knocks out, there's no freaking way. No way, Andrew. And I'm like, why? We're such a great franchise. No.
I'm with you, Andrew.
I mean, the Packers, as you know, are very tight about stuff getting out. And I was dealing with people that thought, it was like Fort Knox we were going to show the world by having our practices on TV. So there's some teams that just get, obviously the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, let them in, show whatever we got. But some teams just don't like it. And I would have liked it. I thought as a public institution like we were, to be a little more transparent. But you're not going to see the Packers anytime soon.
Yeah, and for this year, we sure. If they went knocking on the door this year with all the Rodgers stuff, you had zero. If it was zero before, it's less than zero now happening in Green Bay. But
I'm convinced, Andrew, there's 31 teams that agree with what you said, and there's only one. And by the way, criticize Jerry Jones all you want. I think it was $5.7 billion Forbes valued the Cowboys. Run towards. He's the first responder of brand building. Everybody else runs away. He runs towards it. Totally. I give him credit for that.
Yep.
Andrew, great stuff. We appreciate you coming on. Know you've had to work a little bit harder than you were planning on this summer because all these changes with the NCAA and your affiliation with Villanova. Take a deep breath. Go play a round of golf, but then get back to it. Thanks for getting back on with us.
Thanks, guys. Good to be with you as always.
Andrew Brandt.